Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's potpourri version of From Boxes to Butterflies. It's gonna be a variety of stuff, and it's a chance to just kind of go through a lot of the things I've talked about and kind of give you guys a chance to get a little bit better, know me a little bit better. Some of the things I want to talk about first, like I normally do, the importance of checking in on others. Because I know we've got a lot of people, I know some friends who they are going through tough times. Some of them, those times happened initially months ago. Others, some of it, there's stuff that's happening recent. And just checking in, see how they're doing, because a lot of us are good at putting on that face. And people can look fine. I mean, this world has gotten so used to wearing masks that we've gotten in that habit. Put the mask on. Don't let people know how you're doing. But when you know somebody's got something going on, then please reach out to them, check on them, see how they're doing. And even if you're like, I was checking on them at the beginning when it happened like months ago and they look fine, that doesn't mean that they are fine. So go reach out, see how they're doing. Always just check in. If they're doing fine, that's great. But listen to what they say too, because sometimes they will tell you what's going on without being straightforward about it. So reach out, see who's in your network, and just lift everybody up. My dear sister CJ will level everybody up. This is a case where you want to lift everybody up, because this is more of that emotional aspect. And remember, we're starting to move into the holiday season, and for many, like here, it's now raining. The rain started last night. So I know a lot of people, when that weather starts to change, they start to change. So keep an eye on them and check in. And for those that you know, those that you are close to, don't be afraid to reach out to them either. In terms of sponsors, I have to start with my dear sister, Dr. Constance LEYLAND, CJ. Like I said, she's here to level up the world. She wants to be the Netflix of education. And I know she is on the way to doing that. When you think about all the things she talks about, all the things that she does, and she does a lot of different things. You may think you know all the different things she's doing, yet she's teaching classes, she's doing public relations. We've got our next anthology coming up, so that's going to be taking some time. And yet she is one of the best people I know who also knows how to take time out from that busy schedule to have that family time, to have that time with friends, to have that time away from everything else. And this is something we should learn from. We really need to learn this because too often we get ourselves in the grindstone and we don't know how to pull out. Look at what she does. This past weekend, she was at Monster Palooza. So, and she got to meet Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, how cool is that? Okay. So look at the people around you. When I look at CJ, I mean, she's my closest sister. And I love doing everything with her. And I look at how she does things to just kind of see how she's doing things and also to check in on her. And like I said, public relations, publicity. She's a publicity queen. She is so adept at writing PR, writing articles, writing notes. And now she's got her own access to premium magazines. I mean, these are those magazines you got to pay for, but she also knows how to get discounts. Then there's her own like publicity hub where look at what she's got there. All those industries that she can get press releases in. You've got a project, you've got something coming up you want to tell the world. Reach out to CJ. Touch base with her on how she can help you to do just that, to level up and get your message out there in the world. And I like to go back to this one because this is the anthology we just finished. And it was published in September. Rebel with a Cause. Here are 20 rebels. And with our anthologies, like this particular anthology, she's giving proceeds to mental health organizations. We lost our dear sister Jess Harvey at the very beginning of this project, before she had a chance to write. She's included in here. She's that top left photo because she is a rebel. She's always been a rebel. She was in our first book, Beyond Boundaries, Thriving in Life's Gray Zone, which is what she was doing. And then she was in this one. And this book is dedicated to her. We have 20 authors. The first chapter is basically Jess and what people know about her. So if you get the chance, get this book, check it out, because you're going to find, especially if you're kind of feeling stuck and lost, this is a great way to move beyond that stuckness, see how other people let their rebel come out and go forward as rebels with a cause. My other sponsor, the Hounds of Business Community. My dear sister always says collaboration over competition. That's what the Hounds of Business look to put into action. It is taking that collaboration, working together, and finding ways to lift everybody up in the community. Mike Ashebrainer is the lead of the Hounds, the pack leader, if you will. And he has put this group together so that it's not just business. It's also finding ways to have fun. Because if you're collaborating, that doesn't mean that you have to be all business and not have some fun. At the same time, you're collaborating. That means you're finding people, even if they're doing the same thing that you are, they're not. They have different targets. They have different focus. You could both be writers, but you write different things. You could both be writing the same thing and just find a way to collaborate on something that has both of you together in it. So reach out, check out the Hounds of Business. You'll find them on LinkedIn. Reach out to Mike Ashebrainer. And if you've got questions, see what it's all about. Check in. On this weekend, there's going to be an event in San Diego, a live event. So my dear sister Sandra Gonzalez, who's a retired Marine officer, as is Dr. Dyer, and then you've got CJ on stage with them, all looking to help those in the audience to scale success through servant leadership. You're going to get to hear from them in person what it means to scale that success, ways to scale that success. If you are in Southern Cal, if you get that opportunity, scan the QR code, go to it. There are discounts. I know for veterans, it's either veteran or veterans with an S. I think the one for Level Up is Level Up, but if in doubt, contact CJ and she can tell you exactly what it is for that. And then the next anthology opportunity, and I'm going to kind of start with this belonging. So here we are, against the grain, finding belonging in a world of resistance. And that's exactly everything we talk about. Our, our first anthology was Beyond Boundaries, Thriving Life's Gray Zone, followed by Moving Beyond Boxes, The Journey to Self-Discovery, which is kind of like a prequel. Then you've got Rebel with a Cause. And now you've got Against the Grain, Finding Belonging in a World of Resistance. And this and Rebel, um, I think I'm at a point where I can't decide which would really come first, because they both have that aspect of rebel and belonging and resisting a world that actually is resisting us. This anthology is open until 10/31, midnight on Halloween, when the witches disappear, the pumpkin chariot turns into a pumpkin. That's when the doors close, and writing starts for anybody. Once you sign up, you can start writing. Officially, writing starts on the 1st of November, and the chapters are only 1,500 to 3,000 words. If you're worried about that length, hey, we know how to help you with this. And authors that work with us have found that, oh, I thought I'd maybe get 1,000, and they're like, oh, I got to 3,500 and I have to cut back. So there's a lot of opportunity in this to tell your story. What was it like to be trying to fit in? What was it like to be stuck in a place that the world said you belonged so it could define you? And how did you take that journey? How did you move against the grain and move out of fitting in to go and find that space where you truly belong? And as you can see, I said we've done 3 books already this year. Those are the 3 on the side of this. We never claimed to have an international bestseller. It just turns out all 3 of them were #1 international bestsellers. So with that is really the big thing that we're focused on right now. It's our book. It is being able to move beyond those boxes, to find that space of belonging. And I have a feeling a lot of people might be sitting back going, but I don't have a story. I don't know what I would write about. Yeah, you do. You may not be quite thinking of it. And CJ and I were really good at helping others to see what that story could be, to help you put a structure to it, to make it come to life. I mean, we're talking about stories where you're finding that space to belong, where, look at it this way. Consider that time that you joined a group just to be a part of it. You wanted to fit in. You did everything to fit in. You wore a mask so they wouldn't see who the real you was, because either you knew or you feared that a part of you wouldn't be accepted, that would be judged. But then something happened and you realized this is not where you belong. And it was time to move out of that space, to go somewhere else. How did you do it? How did you move from a space where accepting that the world was telling you how to be, what to be, to finding the place where you belong, where you could drop the mask and the people around you accept you for who you are and love you for who you are? That's what it means to belong. Maybe it's an issue about family and community, where they're expecting you to be someone or do something, be something, and you know at your core that's not who you are. Then you have a choice. You either conform, try to fit in, cover who you are in that space, or you step back, you take a look around you and figure out how you're going to move beyond that space, move beyond that box, and go into the direction, go into the places where you know you belong. That's what it means for belonging. That's all a part of belonging. So when you're sitting back thinking about think about what does it mean to belong? What is it for you to not have to cover yourself, not have to hide who you are? And I'm going to kind of go back to the beginning of all of this, because belonging, in terms of things that I talk about, it is at it's more recent versus what I've done. I often talk about how I entered 2022 with, I called it a total reinvention, because all my life I had people in my life who were telling me who I am, what I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to do. I'm getting it from family, from society, from friends. And the reality is, when you think about who you are, what is it that calls to you? Then that's the time that you need to start looking at how to get out of that box, because right at that moment, everybody is trying to box you. They're trying to tell you and get you to do what they want you to do. They're controlling you. Other ways we get into these boxes: imposter syndrome. It's a biggie. And I've had some people try to tell me, oh, imposter syndrome is just a mental state. It's just in your mind. It is real. So many of us go through it. I know what it's like. Imposter syndrome is, you can walk into a space and you're worried that to be in that space, you're not ready. You see everybody else, you start comparing. Oh, these people look like they've got it all together, whereas I don't. These people, they know how to do this job and they're at the same level, and I don't know how I got this job when I see what everybody else is doing. But did you actually take the time to go back through your how you got to that point, to see all those steps that you did, to realize that you are not just in a place you belong, you're actually ready for someplace 2, 3, 4 steps down the road. So you should be looking at that. Don't compare yourself. Yet one of the things that keeps us comparing everybody is our fears. Our fear knows us so much better than anybody else does. Our fear knows how to pull things from the past and throw them in our face to say, see, if you do this, this is going to happen because it happened before, or you were afraid this was going to happen, or whatever. Fear keeps us in the box, and it does everything it can to keep us there. So when you're looking at, if you're stuck in imposter syndrome and you're looking in the workplace and you see 2, 3 other managers that are at the same level as you, and you think they've got it all together, fear is telling you, yeah, they've got it all together. You're going crazy. You've got all this other stuff going on in the background. But what fear doesn't tell you, because it weaves a translucent web of lies to blur everything, except for that grain of truth, one of those people might be going through marital problems. Another one might be dealing with an addiction. Another one could be having some family issues, or a parent died or something. They could be having just as much issues going on in their lives as you are. Yet all of you look from the surface like you're doing fine because you've put the mask on. You are hiding everything that's inside so that when you walk into that workplace, nobody can tell. Now, do you feel like you belong in that workplace or are you fitting in? If you walk out your front door wearing a mask, how can you feel like you belong when you can't be your authentic self? Being your authentic self, that's who you were created to be. That's why you were put on this world at this time to do what you were given the gifts to do. So don't be afraid to find that space to belong. Don't be afraid to find ways to take off the mask because, yeah, it's scary as crap to take that mask off. I know what it's like. I've been there. But when you find the people around you who you can open up to, you can say, hey, I'm feeling this way. You're going to feel them out at the beginning. But when you realize that they're not judging you, they're accepting you for who you are because they know that if you walk into a space authentically, you will engage more deeply. When we're wearing masks, it's hard to engage with people beyond the superficial. When you're just superficial, it's hi, how are you doing? Yeah, the kids are playing baseball. There's no depth to it. When you get deeper, you start to find a little bit more. It's like, oh, somebody's mom is going through some medical issues right now. It doesn't mean you have to broadcast it, but you can be there and you don't have to fear letting other people know about this. Um, yeah, I'm gonna do CJ here. Yeah, emojis will do too, and I have emojis with my dear sisters that I use, and sometimes I'm afraid to use because I know what's going to happen. But yeah, you don't have to say stuff to that group. You can have cues, you can have keywords, you can have emojis to let them know that you're having a difficult time. It was something I dealt with. I told you at the beginning of our book, Rebel with a Cause, we lost our dear sister Jess. And for some of us, it was a huge loss because not only were we so excited to have her as part of the book, to have her back on, she was so excited to join us in this book. And she was so full of life and she was so looking forward to what she could do with her chapter in this book. And then we find out on a Saturday that she's not here anymore. And for many of us, it hit us hard. Uh, Anybody who has seen some of my posts, this was the beginning of July, and this was a time when I started writing about the Valley of the Shadow, the long slide down into the dark Valley of the Shadow, what it's like to slide into depression, to be in depression, and how hard it is to tell people that you're in it because all this stuff is going on. And sometimes when we lose somebody who is close or important to us, that will push us into depression. So having a space where you belong, having a space where you can open up to others to say what's going on in your life and know that they are there for you. That's a godsend. really, that is one of the spaces that you're safe. You can share, and more than just that happens in those spaces. It's like, it's great that you were here, Matt and Jackie and CJ, Miguel. uh, So everybody who's been here, and hopefully I said all the names. And Leanne was there at the very beginning. So I talk about belonging in this case in terms of they're there to support you when you're on that slide and you support them. But it also becomes a space, sometimes that is a space where the best collaborations happen. My example of that is with CJ. We were getting close, and we hit that point. That point of belonging happened about a year ago when when she asked me to go to Podfest. Yes, dear. And she knew my trepidations about it. To know that she's there, that she's got my back, that's an issue that makes it easier to do something that is uncomfortable, to be able to move beyond boundaries that before that felt like they were fixed. It was like the walls of a box. At the same time, other things that came out of this were, yeah, yeah. If there's somebody that can make me, there's somebody that can make me smile, it's CJ. But something else that comes out of that belonging is collaboration. It isn't, co- belonging is not just a support group, okay? Many other things will come from it. And when I think back with CJ, that's where these anthologies started from. We're like, we want to do anthologies. Let's do one a quarter. Let's do 4 in 2024. And that's what happened. The collaboration came. We were in the first one, and by the time that we were done with that first one, the two of us had our system down. And then we did the second one, and we take turns on this as well. That first one, CJ was the lead on it. That was her anthology. It was her idea, the whole idea of doing the anthologies, and she's the one that published it. So it was published by Level Up. Then the second book, I talk beyond boxes all the time. We worked it out. She gave me some ideas for titles, and I took Moving Beyond Boxes, The Journey to Self-Discovery, because it fit. Then Rebel with a Cause, that was CJ. And the beautiful thing about this current one, Against the Grain, when she kind of gave me a title for the book. And as we were talking one day, we were going through, I think we were working on, we were still finishing up the publishing of the paperback version of Rebel. And she reaches out with this title, and so we're on a Zoom call because we're getting things wrapped up. It's like, it's a team. We do things together. We love it. Then I'd read my chapter in Rebel, and I said, okay, go to this page, read the first sentence of this chapter. And within it, I talked about belonging as going against the grain. So she had given me the title, but I had given her the title. And That's what collaboration is. Collaboration is definitely a part of belonging. And Mikey's here. Um, so it's been a lot of fun with CJ. We've gone through so many different things. We've gone through situations where both of us have been hit that point. It's like thinking about giving up, and like maybe just be done with LinkedIn for something, because there's a lot of toxic people out there. But the reality is we kept at it because the connection was already growing, and there's so much to do here. I mean, when you find that you have a mission for CJ, it's to level up the world through education. For me, I want people to move beyond boxes, especially with a focus on women and vets, because I know both groups so well, to be able to stand in front of a group of women and say, I know what it's like to be told who you are, what you're supposed to do. You feel stuck. Somebody else has control. The goal is to ignite the awareness, to get them to see, yes, they're stuck. I mean, they already know they're stuck. We always know when we're stuck. We always know when something isn't quite right. We always know that we should go down the right fork of the path, not the left fork, or we should take a left at the next street, not a right. Yet we know, but we don't do it. We just do business as usual. We shouldn't have that extra piece of cake, or we shouldn't have that piece of cake at all tonight. Save it for tomorrow, but we eat it anyway. What it really comes down to is, yeah, we know, but we're not aware. We're not aware that we can make a difference. We can make that change. That's how I ended up doing my reinvention in the first place. The ignite of awareness to say, I'm done with this box. I'm going forward. That's what I want others to get when I talk about move beyond boxes and shine. Move beyond boxes, to take back control, to get help from the outside if you need it. Make a plan, get out of the box. And it all begins with the first step. Doesn't matter how big or small, the first step. Because that's the journey. When you're leaving that box, you're leaving behind the mask, you're leaving behind everything that has held you back, so that your authentic self can finally breathe, can finally take that step out in the open and start to do what you were created to do. Our authentic self, the way I view it, is who we are authentically at our core, our heart, our soul. It was just stuck in these shells. It was put in the shell for a reason, sometimes just a season. And the whole goal is to not let the shell become a mask. When the shell becomes a mask, then you just end up doing what everybody else is telling you to do. And you accept that that's all you are. That's all you're supposed to be. That's all you can be. But the minute that you take control, your authentic self takes over and steps out, then you are ready to start fulfilling your purpose in life, why you were put here in the first place, to be your authentic self. It's why I say move beyond boxes and shine. I like the shine because it's easier to say than move beyond boxes and be your authentic self. But that's really what it is. If you are shining, You are being authentic. You are being who you were created to be and moving in the direction that you're supposed to go. Now, it may be a slow journey. It may be a quick journey. For me, it was a half century journey from the moment I got shoved into that box to the moment that I moved beyond the box was almost a half century. Because let's face it, I'll turn 60 next year. I'm just about at the 59 and a half mark now. Go figure that one out. Anyway, so you want to make sure that you are your authentic self. That's what it means to move beyond boxes. That's what it means to be your authentic self. That's what it means to find a space for belonging, for where you should be, where you're supposed to be, and using the gifts that you were given by your creator and putting them to use, helping others, however that was supposed to be. I also kind of wanted to touch base with some things. See, when it comes to working with CJ, the hounds, and then we also have Tyrell and Eamon. This group just keeps growing. So Tyrell, Stack Pack, Eamon, she's in Egypt. But the last 2 weeks, she's been on the live stream, the Sunday morning live audio room. So CJ's got an audio room every Sunday morning. You really don't want to miss that audio room, you know? I say that because the conversations that happen in those rooms are often mind-blowing. And this weekend was really no different. This weekend, we talked about belonging, and there were some nuggets that really came out of this that was really a lot of fun to see. It's nice to see you. I think this is a first time, Sharon, and I hope I got your name right. But like Sunday morning during the show, Sandra came up. Our dear sister Sandra Bothy, she was an author in the last book, and she commented about how when you look at collaboration, and I've always kind of seen this and talk about it too. When you look at collaboration in a workplace, wherever, collaboration saves money when it's integrated. And she used as an example pharmaceuticals. So if pharmaceuticals would actually kind of work together and collaborate on some of these things instead of being independent, things could happen quicker and they could happen better. And it would save money. And if it saves money in terms of creating the product, it will save money in terms of distributing and selling the product. So think about all these aspects. Collaboration, you work with somebody, it also reduces energy because you're no longer focused on the competition, on having to beat somebody, having to one up them all the time. And I've seen it on LinkedIn, and it's kind of sad. Some of the people that all they care about is competition. How can they one up somebody that they've decided they don't like, or that they've kind of that it's just maybe it was a friendship that went sour, or you see somebody and something about them you just don't like, and suddenly it becomes competition. You've got the negative attitude and it becomes competition. In some ways, Competition is kind of negative versus collaboration. Not on the sports level, but in this business world, when you can find the ways to collaborate, you reduce the energy that you're expending trying to beat somebody else. Think back to um, think back to Miracle on 34th Street, where you have Macy's and Gimbels, two big competitors. Yet there's a point in the movie where Santa Claus, Chris, he comes in and he's being the Santa for Macy's, yet sending people to Gimbels for the product that they want because either they have it or it's cheaper. And suddenly, while the middle management people are like, how can you do this? This is wrong. Yet Mr. Macy's sees what's going on, thinks about it, and immediately sees the advantage because more people are going to want to go to Macy's to find their products. And if they don't, they know that they'll be sent where they can get what they want, not sold something that they don't really want. It's not what they were looking for. Taking care of the customer. Collaboration, take care of the customer. Then Gimbel's figured it out and he's doing the same thing. Here's two big competitors who want to beat each other up, collaborating within that story. Look at how many different ways collaboration can uplift everyone. And then Eamon made a beautiful comment. I want to make sure I get your guys' comments too. Eamon made a comment when she was talking about collaboration energy is abundance. She talked about a benefit and how you need to choose who you're going to work with, who you're going to collaborate with. And I loved how she said it because she's like, choose who you're collaborating with wisely. Well, like I said, I'm almost 60. So Raiders of the Lost Ark just jumped into my mind, partly because of the Pepsi commercials, partly because of a certain line where Indiana Jones has to choose which of the cups would be the Holy Grail. And the guardian that's in that space, he says, choose wisely. And when he did choose wisely, it's like, you've chosen wisely. When somebody else chose poorly, it's like, you chose poorly. So I hadn't even thought about the movie aspects of these, but collaboration itself, it pops up in movies in different ways, which is a lot of fun. And then another thing that she talked about that Eamon mentioned, when you are doing things yourself, you're not collaborating, you're trying to get through it yourself. And how many of us, we struggle with that? We're like, we feel like we have to do it to ourselves, or we have to have it perfect before we show anybody. So it's a me culture. When you collaborate with somebody, and I get this, that this is how I work with CJ, it becomes we. And Eamon noted this little aspect of like, they're both spelled the same, except you have an M on me, sure, and it's facing the ground. It's opened up to the ground because, you just think of McDonald's and everything below the arches is going down. And if it's on the ground, it's me. It doesn't get to go very far. There's not a lot of, you can't get a lot of depth if it's just you. But if you rotate that M 180 degrees and is pointing up to the sky is limitless. The universe is limitless. And so suddenly you, in a collaboration, the opportunities, the possibilities become limitless. And I really love the way that she did that. And so it's another way to think about collaboration and how to see that value in collaboration. How to see the value of working with somebody instead of going it alone, doing everything by yourself. When you have a team, when you have others working with you, then so many things can happen. On top of that, that team needs to be more of a belonging team, a place where, yeah, you can collaborate on a team, and that's one thing. But if everybody is still showing up with a mask because you're hiding something about you, you're afraid to take the mask off, you're afraid to give the best answers because the company's got a problem, or your team has a problem it has to solve. When you have the idea suggestion, a a possibility that would really fix it, and it could be the best solution that just helps the company explode in a positive way. But you're afraid to say that answer because to say it, to suggest it, is almost like opening a crack or putting a window in that mask for people to see inside. Because some people might say, oh, the only way you could come up with this idea is because you are, and whatever it is you're hiding. And so it's like you're so afraid of letting anybody find out what is going on inside, what is holding you back, what you're going through, because you don't know, but you are thinking of how they might react, how they might act, how they might change in terms of how they interact with you. And it's always a negative. We can't see the positive happening because all we're used to in this world is getting the negative. You turn on the news, it's all negative. You all it's like that's all that happens. And so we're fearful of what might happen, but we're not thinking of it in a negative, in a positive way. We're thinking the negative. That's why we're so fearful. That's why fear controls us and keeps us in that box. That's why it creates um, that web of lies, translucent web of lies that blurs everything except for that grain of truth. It keeps telling you to keep you in the box. To let fear control you is what holds us back so often. Um, Hopefully it's your network and not me, because I'm not seeing I'm not seeing messages on my side, Sharon. So hopefully, um, but this is also streaming to YouTube. So there's always replays on YouTube. All of my from boxes to butterflies are on my YouTube channel. Um, so when we think about, and I do have ADHD, so sometimes either something will catch my eye, or if I get off track, I have to find my way back on. It's a part of life. But fear in that box, it always is looking for those ways to keep us in the box, to not let us step out, to not move beyond those borders. When we move beyond those borders, it's losing its power. When we look through the cracks, because the box is never solid, there's always cracks. But when we look through the cracks and we allow them to get wider, let the light into the box, Light coming into that box reduces the shadow, which reduces where the fear can hide. So think about think about how fear has that way to hold us back. How it uses every trick in the book because it knows you better than you do. It remembers all the crap that you went through in your past that you've consciously forgotten. And it's really nice to um, forget some of that. But at the same time, when you have that awareness of what's going on, when fear tries to use this, if you're not aware, fear is going to pull things from the past you weren't expecting, and it's going to be like a gut punch. I've dealt with this in writing memoirs, in writing the anthologies. Um, you can be writing something, thinking about something, and suddenly something you had totally forgotten about in the past pops up. And it just doubles you over because you don't know what was going on. You don't know why it came up, but once it came up, you can't let go of it for some reason. When you're aware of what's going on, when you're aware that fear is doing what it can to, it's using, fear hits below the belt. Let's just put it that way. It's using every trick in the book. When it starts doing this, you may know that it's happening, but you're just not clear of what to do to get out of it because it just keeps bombarding you. When you're aware, when you let your awareness get ignited and you know what's happening, but it's the awareness that allows you to stop it, to step in and say, okay, I see where this is going. We're done. It's time to move on to the next thing and let it go. And that's where CJ would start singing, let it go. But you want to you don't want to let fear control you. The only time fear should control you is in those life and death moments because it does have a purpose. But when it comes to other people, unless your gut is really telling you to stay away from somebody, to not do something, then it's usually fear that's trying to put a monkey wrench into your relationships with other people, into how you interact at work, how you feel at work. So fear is one of these things that you have to understand how to work with it. And everything I've talked about today, I mean, it's kind of been a roundabout, and I know that. But for me, coming into this year, as we kind of get to the top of the hour, coming into 2022, I called it a total reinvention, and I said I was done with boxes. Then it was kind of that understanding that the world will always put us in boxes. It just has this innate desire to stick people in groups, label them as such, and cherry pick whatever example within that group it wants to use for whatever narrative it wants to paint. Since that's happening, I shifted from no more boxes to beyond boxes. Take back control. Don't let fear hold you back. Don't let society hold you back. When you know who you are, it's time to step up, take back control from whoever's got it, be it a person, be it your fear, whatever. Take that control back. Take the steps, make the plan, take the steps, move beyond that box, and let your authentic self finally breathe and do what your creator created you to do, to be, because that's who you are at your core. That's your authentic self. Everything else it doesn't matter. You were stuck in a shell to do something. If for some reason that shell is disabled, God must have figured that you would be able to get through it. If it so whatever the case, moving beyond the boxes, shine as your authentic self. And then the next thing that comes along is finding the space of belonging, going to where you can collaborate, to where you can work with others and build something better instead of compete against others and keep trying to find ways to tear each other down. I mean, if everybody's tearing each other down, nothing is going to happen in this world. We don't need that. So as we come to the close, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for coming. It was great seeing you. Um, I love being able to kind of go through all of this stuff because there's so much to it. And when I speak on it, I I will narrow it down. If I'm speaking to a group of women and the focus is to get them out of those boxes they're stuck in, then that's what we're going to talk about for 20 minutes or create a workshop to help them see how to ignite their awareness so that they can take those first steps. If it's veterans, it's the same way. That's why I will even talk about it's we're just in the shell. Anybody who's been in combat, and I'm a veteran, but I didn't have combat experience. The way they come back change. Some of them, it can be missing a limb. I think to the movie Battleship, where there was an army colonel in that who'd lost his legs, and he'd basically given up. But his authentic self wasn't going to. And there's a point in the movie where his authentic self is what comes through. It's like, yeah, the shell, we're done letting the shell hold us back. Instead, he takes the tools he's got, his authentic self steps out, and he steps up and is part of the reason why the humans are successful against the aliens. And if that's a spoiler alert, well, that movie's been out a while. Um, and besides, most of the movies, don't they all have that happy ending, as it were? So that's kind of everything in a 1 hour nutshell. When I speak, yeah, it's going to be smaller bite-sized chunks in different places. Here you kind of got the fire hose. But I think it was time for the fire hose. And for everybody, I hope you have a lovely rest of your Tuesday or Wednesday, if it's already Wednesday wherever you are. Have a great week, and I will see you next week. Bye.